Hey folks, this is Iliya with TWRAPS, and I'll show you how to install the Headlights Tint or Clear PPF on the second generation Rivian. That's the 2025 plus Rivian R1T and R1S. Before you begin, I highly recommend you clean this area thoroughly and grab a bottle of clean water. Unlike your regular PPF, I recommend this installation, at least the sides, to be with clean water. The light bar also with clean water, and you can do the ovals with soapy water to reduce the risk of bubbles. But the side lights, these are the most difficult part, definitely with clean water. When you're ready, when this is clean, you have your water, grab a heat gun or a hair dryer, grab the squeegee that we provided and the film, and first spray the headlight. Then spray the film, and then start fading off and spray again. Now, because I'm doing this with clean water and not soapy water, we would need this to be really moist, otherwise we get bubbles. Okay, now let's position. And as I said, this is by far the most difficult piece because it wraps around here to reduce the risk of light bleed. Okay, now that I've positioned this, okay, I actually don't like my position very much. Let's redo. I'm positioning by this corner here and this long line. And then I want this part to kind of look like this. And when you're done, wet your squeegee and let's start removing the water. Make sure to apply proper force here. If it misaligns, peel off, realign. But again, because this is clean water and not soapy water, it will be prone to trap air. So squeegee hard. If you trap air, peel off, respray, redo. That's before the film cures. Once it cures, if you peel off, it won't be usable anymore. In that case, you can just shoot us an email and we will help you with a replacement piece. Okay, now the flat surface is in, and I will start working towards removing the water here. Notice that there are several pressure relief cuts. There's one here, there's one here, and one here. Leave these for last. I'm working around them right now. Leave these for last, and I'll show you why. I'm just trying to get the bulk of water out right now. Okay, let's soak this to see what we have left. Okay. Next up, when you get the bulk of water out, it's time for the either heat gun or hair dryer, whatever you have. Both work. I've heard steamers work. I haven't tried yet personally, but and now I will work in segments. First, I'll handle this part here. And you want to warm up the film because that allows it to stick better and to conform to these shapes better. Makes it softer and stickier. Plus, it evaporates the water. Next up, I'll do this segment here. just take your time with this one. As I said, this is the hardest piece. The light bar is easier, the ovals and everything else is really easy. But this one, being so curved, requires patience. Okay, now I will do this segment, and lastly we will do the overlapping where the pressure relief cuts are. During the installation, some of the places that you applied already might unstick. Just go over them again. That's quite normal. Before the film cures, it's prone to unsticking. Alright, now let's do this one first. So it's a pressure relief cut. Let me demonstrate something. Much like this one. And we made that part stick already. And we want this part to be really well positioned, not peeling off anywhere. And then we'll just grab this corner here, which would be this one, and we'll apply it over the other part. Ideally, depending on how much you stretched it and how you positioned it down to the millimeter, they would not overlap. They will just be right next to each other, so there's no gap and no overlap. But getting ideal conditions with a pre-cut kit is more like a numbers game. Now, if you do get a gap here, like I am getting, and it bothers you, one thing you can do is to grab something sharp so you can carefully lift the film. And then just stretch it a little bit. Kind of like that. And now I'll do the last part where we have an overlap, which is here. I'll apply one of the pieces first. I mean, it's almost done already. Just making sure it's not sticking out. And then I will pour the one on top over it. Just going over my installation again to remove any leftover air or water. Now the next part of this is installing this piece over here. We repeat the same steps, and by the way, you can go back to your installation a little bit later when it's starting to set. If something is coming off, you can just push it with your finger and that should do it. In my case, I can see that this wants to come off, so I'll heat it up a little bit to help it right now. Okay, so for the last piece here, we'll spray again with clean water. I'll spray the piece itself. And I will position it so that it does not overlap with the upper piece. And that's pretty much how you do the side lights. I will move on with the oval, and after that I'll do the headlight, the light bar. So let's get into it. The ovals are really simple. Again, make sure it's clean. And then spray it. And for the ovals, you can use soapy water. That would make it a little bit easier. But in my case, I'll just use clean water. It's not such a huge piece to be unmanageable with clean water. Now the key to doing this with clean water, if you decide to go that route, is to apply and align carefully, and then spray half of it and start removing the water. Really push with that squeegee. You don't want any air or any water to be left under that film. Now that half of it is squeegeed out, I'll just peel off the bottom half, respray, that's it. As I said, the ovals are that simple. Next up, the big light bar. Just like with the other pieces, make sure it's clean, spray the piece, and make sure to orient this properly. So notice it looks a little bit like a trapeze, with the wider part being on top. Let's position this. Now, the way you want to position this is that the top edge of this should be such that when you tuck it in, it goes inside goes to cover this curve without going on to the next one. And because I'm not using soap, squeegeeing is a little more demanding, but in the other hand, I don't need to use the heat gun that much. Now, the main piece is now positioned, and I'm making sure that there is no water or air left by going really hard with my squeegee and listening for little popping sounds, which would be air gaps that are popping. Okay, so let's first do the upper part. We'll start in the middle and we'll do it one side at a time, like this. Make sure you don't lift up the squeegee on the curve here. You don't do like this, but follow the curve. Otherwise, you will leave and trap air at this curve. Now that the upper part is done, I will lift up the bottom of the film to respray again, just in case. And we'll follow the same principle. We'll go in the middle here, and make sure this sticks well. I don't know if you can hear that slight popping, cracking sound on this video, but if you can hear that while you're working with the squeegee, you should know that you're not done yet, because that indicates we still have some air trapped inside and we need to get this out. Otherwise, once it dries up, it would appear as bubbles. And if you do end up getting some bubbles, you can just use a needle to poke them out, squeeze them out, and then the needle mark will heal because this is a self-healing film. But it would be better if we don't have to do that, wouldn't it? And if you're wondering why do I keep going at it even though it appears completely done, it's because I can still hear these sounds. Okay, let's see what happens. Alright, that looks pretty good. Well, folks, that's about it. The rest is just tiny pieces for the fog lights and the reflectors on the quarter panels and the mirrors. If you've done this, you don't need a video to install a piece that's like this big. It's pretty much peel and stick. For the fog lights you can use some water, but for the others you don't even need water, just clean it up, peel and stick, that easy. If you have any issues, please send us an email and we'll help you. And again, please take your time. This installation takes time because it's tricky. On the Gen 1 it was relatively easy. On the Gen 2 with this geometry, it's tricky. So take your time to remove all of the water so you don't end up with bubbles. Thank you.